Welcome to the Transformative Pursuit with Dr. Christopher Cohn. We're glad you have joined us and pray the content will be helpful and encouraging. The pursuit starts now.
Well, hello and welcome to the Transformative Pursuit. This is episode 5, and we're talking about Nietzsche versus Solomon today, contrasting a couple of very important worldviews. Today's episode of the Transformative Pursuit is brought to you by Agathon University of Applied Faith. Deepen your skill in the biblical worldview. Learn fully online and at your own pace. Learn starting at $78 per credit hour. Whether you want to enhance your growth through a degree program, earn a certification to enhance your service and leadership skills, or simply take classes for personal enrichment, Agathon University of Applied Faith has an educational path that fits you. agathonu.com. Well, today we are contrasting Nietzsche and Solomon and considering their two worldviews that are so vastly opposite and different. So let's just take a look at Nietzsche. What does Friedrich Nietzsche say about truth? He says, now everything essential in human development occurred in primeval times long before those 4,000 years with which we are more or less familiar. So again, he's talking evolution here. He says, man probably hasn't changed much more in these years, but the philosopher sees instincts in present-day man. Okay, so rather than something concrete and universal, he sees instincts in present-day man. Instincts, and assumes that they belong to the unchangeable facts of human nature, that they can, to that extent, provide a key to the understanding of the world in general. This entire teleology is predicated on the ability to speak about man of the last 4,000 years as if he were eternal, the natural direction of all things in the world from the beginning. Hang with me, because here's this important statement from Friedrich Nietzsche. But everything has evolved. There are no eternal facts, nor are there any absolute truths. Thus, historical philosophizing is necessary. Okay, so that's Friedrich Nietzsche, and human, all too human. But he continues. So he said that everything's evolved, and because of that, there's no eternal facts, nor are there any absolute truths. He continues and says it's probable that the objects of religious, moral, and aesthetic sensibilities likewise belong only to the surface of things. In other words, religion is just about appearances. It's just aesthetic. Although man likes to believe that here at least he's touching the heart of the world because those things make him so deeply happy or unhappy. He deceives himself. So if we move toward the religious or think about these appearances, we're deceiving ourselves, he says, and we're showing the same pride as astrology, which thinks the heavens revolve around the fate of man. The moral man, however, presumes that that which is essential to his heart must also be the heart and essence of all things. Okay, so in other words, what's important to us must be reality. That's what Nietzsche is saying, and he's saying that's a deception, right? That's not reality. So he says, as soon as we understand the origins of religion, art, and morality, as soon as we can figure those out, then we can explain them fully without resorting to the use of metaphysical intervention at the beginning and along the way. Then one no longer has as strong an interest in the purely theoretical problem of the thing in itself and appearance. Okay, so that's Nietzsche telling us that if we understand that religion is just about an appearance and wishing things to be true, if we understand that, then we don't have to resort to metaphysical intervention. In other words, someone divine coming into the picture at the beginning or along the way. We don't care about reality anymore, the thing in itself. So there's no truth. And for Nietzsche, that has huge worldview implications. That essentially means we create our own ethic. We create our own goodness and truth and reality. Okay? Now here's the total opposite perspective. This is Solomon in Proverbs chapter 3. He says, my son, do not forget my teaching. There's something very valuable here. Don't forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. And then not only does he identify these aspects of truth and reliable reality, but he adds the benefit that adhering to these things will provide. He says, for length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. See, Nietzsche's not able to provide that. He's not able to make any kind of promise about length of life, overall well-being, and especially peace. And that term peace, that shalom in the Hebrew scriptures, that term that Solomon uses, that's well-being. So don't forget my teaching. Keep my commandments, length of days, years of life, and peace they will add to you. He continues in verses 3 and 4 of Proverbs chapter 3. He says, do not let kindness and truth leave you. See, there's reason to have kindness. Well, in Nietzsche's model, kindness is actually weakness. There's no natural reason to have kindness. And he's already said, Nietzsche has, that truth is of no consequence. If we understand that truth is just this aesthetic idea to explain things and make us feel better, then we're not even worried about truth anymore. But Solomon says, don't let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Well, what's the outcome? So you will find favor and good repute. And if he just said in the sight of man, that would be enough. That would be essentially a recommendation on how to live and win friends, so to speak. But that's not what he says. He says, so that you will find favor and good repute in the sight of God and man, because truth matters. Truth is about reality. And if we are holding on and holding fast to kindness, holding fast to truth, binding them around our neck, writing them on the tablet of our heart, we'll find favor and good repute, not only with man, but in the sight of God. So Solomon is offering something that Friedrich Nietzsche can't in his worldview. Further, Solomon says this in Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. He says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. So that is such a key phrase. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. What is the ethical call for the person in this universe? To trust in the Lord, to believe in the Lord. That word trust is just synonymous with believe. Believe in the Lord. The Lord is our creator. He is the one who made us, who designed us, who knows everything about us, who's designed our life, who gives us definition and meaning. So because of that, we trust in him with all our heart, with all our being, instead of leaning on our own understanding. Well, what has Nietzsche prescribed? He's told us that we do, in fact, need to lean on our own understanding, because any metaphysical intervention, divine intervention outside of the scope of the natural is not reality. It's just an aesthetic or a wish, or it's the equivalent of trying to find order in the stars. It's astrology. Okay? And the ethical outcomes for Nietzsche essentially are, we shouldn't love one another, we shouldn't be kind to one another, we shouldn't be self-sacrificing. Goodness is not about some moral core, an objective reality. Instead, to Nietzsche, goodness is about what promotes my existence. And every person has to deal with this, making their own reality. But Solomon doesn't say that. He says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. He acknowledges, Solomon does, that our understanding is limited. Nietzsche's dependent on it. Nietzsche essentially says everything that we can know is in our observation and in our very existence. And if we go beyond that, we don't have any way of knowing. And because of that, it's not reality. Well, that's a pretty far leap for Friedrich Nietzsche. Now, Solomon continues and says in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, he says, in all your ways acknowledge him. In all your doings, everything you do, all your interactions, acknowledge the Lord. And then there's a consequence that Solomon mentions. He says, and he will make your paths straight. What an incredible recipe for life. Trust in the Lord. That's it. Believe in him. Don't lean on your own understanding. Nietzsche's saying just the opposite. Don't trust in the Lord. Don't even allow this metaphysical intervention in at the beginning or throughout. There's no need. It's not reality. Solomon is explaining just the opposite. Trust in the Lord as your creator, the one to whom you're accountable. Trust in him with all your being, and don't lean on your own understanding. Two totally opposed worldviews. In all your ways, acknowledge him. right? Instead of in all your ways acknowledging yourself, which is Nietzsche's idea, in all your ways acknowledge your Creator, and what will happen? Solomon says, He will make your paths straight. God will make your paths straight. In other words, there is a straight. There is an absolute, objective, right way to live, to fulfill the design that we have, that our Creator has given us. That's what Solomon is trying to instill in his son, who would be reading this passage, and that's what he's instilling in us as well as later readers. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. Now, think about the worldview implications of this, okay? Remember that chart. You can, if you're listening to this on the radio, you can see that chart in your head. The 4 blue steps. The first is epistemology, second is metaphysics, third is ethics, fourth is sociopolitical. Every worldview has to address these 4 issues. Every worldview has to answer the same questions. Well, Solomon tells us we can know, we understand what truth is because of the Lord, because of God who created us. He then gets to define the metaphysic of reality, what exists. And then after that, he provides us the ethical responsibility. What do we do about all this? What's the ought? It's about trusting in the Lord. It's about acknowledging Him in all our ways. And then as we interact with each other in sociopolitical thought, it's about loving one another, right? Treating each other as we would have ourselves be treated. Those kinds of things. This is what Solomon is talking about. Friedrich Nietzsche, on the other hand, is telling us that essentially our existence is the source of authority. Our existence is the answer to epistemology and the question of how we can know. We can't know. We can't have any certainty. So any attempt at a grand understanding of reality is essentially astrology. It's just an aesthetic that makes us feel better, according to Nietzsche. Because of that, who gets to define reality, the metaphysics of it all? Nietzsche won't allow God into the picture, so who's left to give us explanation? Surprise, it's Nietzsche. Nietzsche gets to tell us what is good, what is not good. So essentially, if we adopt Nietzsche's worldview, it's not our own existence, but it's Nietzsche's interpretation. He becomes our source of authority, ultimately then telling us in his worldview that Nietzsche's understanding of ethics, that compassion is evil, that love is weakness, that kindness is not appropriate, that self-sacrifice is wasteful, that those kinds of things are actually bad and don't contribute to the greater good of my own existence. That's Nietzsche. Well, we've got a really clear contrast here. Really clear contrast. And when you see Nietzsche's system played out, this Darwinian model of evolutionary thought applied to philosophy and to worldview, you end up with a sociopolitical perspective that has totally rejected God, rejected the value of the other person, and now all that's left is the strong destroying the weak. And we've seen this worldview in action. On the other hand, Solomon's model is to never let kindness and truth leave you, which means treating others as your Creator would have you treat them. And we see this incredible contrast, and Nietzsche's model is definitely the most prominent model on the planet right now, and we have quite a contrast here. Solomon is giving us wisdom. Will we trust in the Lord with all our heart, or will we turn to this model in which we are defining who we are? We're ignoring the Creator, trying to get rid of His fingerprints, and ultimately apply our own design to our lives. Well, one of these models is building the house on the rock, and the other is building it on sand. Solomon is appealing to the Creator and the designer. Nietzsche is appealing to himself and his own existence. You be the judge as you pursue transformation.